Hello, and welcome back to Spine and Soul. We are 5 women who read together, talk honestly, and show up for each other. We are mothers, daughters, and friends. We are all women of faith, though not the same faith. Between us, you will hear references to the Bible, to the universe, and to the Tao Te Ching. We range in age from 48 to 62, and we care about growth, connection, and community. We are sharing these conversations because of what they mean to us. We hope something in what we share finds you where you are today. A quick note before we begin. This podcast contains adult language and references to alcohol use. This is episode 2. Welcome. This season we are reading Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead by Brené Brown. Brené Brown is a research professor at the University of Houston who has spent more than 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. She believes that vulnerability is not weakness, but the place of love, belonging, creativity, and change. I want to introduce you briefly to my marvelous friends. Bronte, an engineer, horsewoman, writer, and a dreamer. Athena, an engineer, wise and strong in her faith and friendship. Miss B, a nurse with a swift mind and a great heart. Sparks, an entrepreneur whose work spans theater set design, repurposing of furniture and art, and now caregiving. And there's me, Renata. I am a graduate student in mental health and a costume and jewelry designer. And we are all dancers. 5 women, 1 book. Here we go.
We recording?
We are now.
I quoted us. I wrote down some quotes, some things that we said last time. One from each of us. Okay, who said... The army taught her not to do it with her mouth.
I said that about Athena.
And we know who said, why do y'all have so much to process?
Sparky over here.
And we know who said, sex. It's literally the only thing missing from my life. And I said, I just wanted to stick my pinky in it.
Oh, God. That was the guacamole. The avocado.
Yeah.
Avocado.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That brings me to my next question. Does anybody have any new fruit to share?
I mean, I'm amazed at how many different kinds there were. I was like, why? There was one that's like when life hands you lemons.
You could make a vibrator out of it.
I don't know if I can go on a lemon up there.
Okay.
And is our what?
Are you conjugating?
I read chapter 2 last night.
Way to go, Terry.
Thank you.
Did you find more to relate to in this chapter than in the last one?
I'm going to plead the 5th on it.
Oh, this is not a court of law. You do not have that safeguard.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Do say more.
Well, I mean, the whole, they talk about the, suck it up, buttercup, like you tend to, like that whole vulnerability is a weakness thing of, and I think I act that way. Like I made it through. We don't cry. We don't do. And my kids are like, let's suck it up. We're moving on. We're not going to do this. And that's been my mentality most of my life is you don't really sit in it and hold space for it and process it. You just suck it up and keep moving. There's no need to.
Why is there no need to?
What's the need to? I've never known that there wasn't a need to do it. I just didn't know that there was a need to do it. You just, okay, it's happening. All right, it's happening. Let's keep going. Why do I need to analyze it? It's a thing. It's doing it.
But what do you do with your feelings about it? Like, what did you do with them?
I don't know.
Stuff them.
Probably.
Talk yourself out of it.
Talk yourself. Yeah, probably not stuffing it as much as just.
It could be worse.
Just, right, you're going, okay, I acknowledge this feeling, but I'm not going to sit here and just dwell in it.
You're going to keep moving.
I'm just going to keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to dwell in it. I'm not going to ignore it necessarily. I'm just not going to dwell in it. But after reading chapter 2, I can see so much of how that's not such a great thing. to do now that I've read through this and gone, oh, wow, that sounds a lot like me. And maybe that's not such a great thing after all, you know? So,
She has these lists in there about what does vulnerability sound like, and what does vulnerability feel like. Is there a particular one that resonated with you?
no, I think that's the reason is I wasn't vulnerable. I stuffed it and moved on. So I didn't feel vulnerable. I just kept moving. In my mind, it was much more vulnerable to just sit in it,
Okay.
you know? So I didn't feel it. I didn't really feel vulnerable because I was just like, okay, this is just a thing. We're going to just roll right out of that and move on to the next thing so that we feel good.
When she says, how does vulnerability feel? And one of the answers is not sucking it in anymore.
Yeah.
Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was skimming through this again today, and I had some conversations with Bronte and Miss B today about emotions, expectations, that kind of stuff. And this particular phrase, waking up every day and loving someone who may or may not love us back, whose safety we can't ensure, who may stay in our lives or may leave without a moment's notice. That's vulnerability. Love is uncertain. It's incredibly risky. Loving someone leaves us emotionally exposed. It's scary, and yes, we're open to being hurt, but can you imagine your life without loving or being loved? And you all know why that's such a big deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost people I loved in lots of different ways, but I never had such a sudden, shocking impact of loss before. I could sit with that on the couch and just cry and understand that I don't regret being vulnerable to that love, even though it cost me great pain. I can't imagine the person I would be now without every single thing I did over the last 7 years in order to turn that relationship into something more than it was. And in the end, it created a better version of me, one that won't fight so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was righteous fighting with him all the time. I was right. I was right to want what I wanted, and I was right to expect what I wanted, and it was very reasonable, and every woman wants this, and it's not like I was wrong about that. But there's that phrase, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted both. I wanted my needs to finally take priority for somebody else. And I didn't realize that I was the somebody else that needed to make it a priority, not someone else, not another man, not that vulnerability to be loved. It's a risk. So Bronte sent this to me. She said, I can't stop fighting. The world will eat me alive. This to me is the foundation of what we're talking about. Because we actually can. But this is part of it. It's like, if I am vulnerable, I will get eaten. People will run over the top of me. People won't respect me. People will. But is that true?
Yeah, it's been our experience.
But is there a difference between being vulnerable and allowing?
Yes.
Yes. It's only if you see it as, I'm going to be vulnerable to you. And at the same time, I'm going to drop all my boundaries, all my requirements. I'm going to be passive, and I'm going to let you hurt me. Those are not the same.
Like, I have a guy at work who questions me, and I'm sure he questions me because I'm female. And I'm sure that male engineers do not get this questioning. So I resent. I mean, I explain and I'm professional about it, but I have to explain myself more.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to stop that because I mean, who would I be if I just didn't fight people who want to stop me?
That's a great question. Who would you be?
Stopped.
No.
Be
That's your
stopped.
action.
And that's your fear,
Becoming someone else.
that there isn't any other action to take than fight the people who are trying to stop her or hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way forward that involves less battling.
I'm not sure that's actually the right question.
Okay.
Because one, I think we're talking about two separate things. One, habitual action that comes out of deeply ingrained and rooted history of a myriad of experiences. I think more so about a becoming and a growing awareness. So habitual action and growing awareness are two separate things. To become more aware doesn't automatically mean that the action is going to differ. It will mean that the motive and the choice is different. The action may appear the same from the outside. The fight may still be there. That may be core to personality. It may be linked to survival, which, I mean, for all of us, our habitual actions are, right? That's growth. But the action and the internal awareness and motivation and intrinsic cycling are different.
They are.
They're very different.
How to show up in your own power,
Yes.
in your own strength.
Yep.
Without fighting. Because in my perception, when you fight with somebody, you're allowing the concept of their authority over you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yes.
And
It's have that inner confidence.
it can just be an internal difference. It doesn't have to be, well, I will no longer stand up for myself.
Right.
I will no longer.
Exactly.
It's just recognizing
Yes.
that showing up authentically helps you not get rocked off your core by bullies. And it's hard because bullies in the schoolyard, have we all dealt with that? And that where some of this starts is in school when we're children. And we're very vulnerable as children. You learn to fight. You fight enough, other people won't bother you. Oh, she's scrappy. Oh, she's mean. She'll fight back, and then they won't come after you as much.
I just learned to be invisible.
Yeah, I did that too.
I didn't fight. I just became invisible.
How about you, Bronte? When you were bullied in school, what'd you do?
My brother bullied me. I didn't really get bullied in school. But I remember one time I was at the water park and I'd gone down a slide and my boobs were out because I was wearing a bikini, and these girls walked by and they laughed. They laughed at me. They didn't tell me that I was exposed. So, I mean, I discovered it and covered myself. I wasn't really embarrassed. Like, it happens. It happens to everybody. But a boy came up to me at school and was going to tease me about it. And I said, yeah, you know what? Those bitches didn't even tell me. They just laughed at me. And I had another instance where a girl, for some reason, decided she wanted to fight me. I had never been in a fight. I still have not ever been in a fight. But I just said, okay. And that just dissolved it. I was like, whatever. I wasn't afraid. I didn't meet it with fear. I don't think that's resistance. I think that's acceptance. I was like, okay, I'm not afraid. Bring it.
So when somebody tries to intimidate you by saying they're going to fight you, and you just sort of like, all right.
I think I can be the bigger bully. I had a big brother.
I didn't. Did anybody else have a big brother?
I did. But he was the geeky kid who didn't know who he was. And he was the one who got bullied.
Did you fight?
I've never been in a fight.
Okay.
Didn't have to.
But I can be scrappy, girl.
I know you can.
It was so funny. I can remember being in the 6th grade one time. It was just picking and poking and pestering the shit out of me. And I called him a bastard. And he's like, what? So then I spelled it for him.
I can go look it up now.
So I spelled it. So bad.
Well, Miss B, what about you? Did you get out of this chapter?
Fun. You know, the teacher side of me. She defines vulnerability. Let's define what we're actually talking about. So, on page 34, She says, I define vulnerability. It's in bold print for those of you who need one.
that.
I define vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And just reading those words, there's something in my core that starts to shake. Because I'm like, to be uncertain about something, risky, it's not my chosen way of life. I'll do it, not my chosen favorite. And then emotional exposure. Oh, hell no. So the myths about what vulnerability actually does, there's a quote, page 43 at the top, or under myth 2, the bottom of the quote says, to be alive is to be vulnerable, by Madeline L'Engle. And earlier in the book, she describes vulnerability. Those who were the strongest were those who live life most wholehearted. And she said to live life vulnerably is, you could interchange it with living life wholeheartedly. Now that I wholeheartedly resonate with, because that is my desire, but emotions are not something that I have been readily familiar with. Being aware of them, discussing them, owning them. I would much rather, I have lived my life as doing the things I'm supposed to do, period. And doing them either well enough or consistently enough that emotions don't really play a part. You can feel them, sure, but they're not going to make an impact on your decision making, because you have you should be doing
As your safety.
as your safety. The should, if you're doing it right, you're doing what I'm supposed to do. If you're living well, whatever well looks like, which are often expectations by others placed on you, which I'm highly sensitive to feeling. That's the feeling word. It's more like a gut. I was much more accustomed to talking about gut intuition than emotion. And emotional language is something I've had to learn. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Enneagram, I'm a 9, who we are asleep to our anger, right? I'm asleep to my anger. Because I can be logical about it. Why be angry? If I can explain it, I'm not going to have to feel it, right? Because I can tell myself how to feel about it. Other than stopping to say, how do I feel about this? And then going from there. No. What are the facts? And I will decide how I feel about it. And we go from there. So that's kind of how I have lived. What I am wonderfully discovering is the power to lean into my discomfort and realizing there's so much benefit to come from that. I've been really, really intentional for the last 2 years now, at this point now, almost 2 years in March, about leaning into discomfort. And I have only received incredible growth from it. Not every moment has been enjoyable, but I have received so many gifts. Yes.
It's true.
It's true. Not every moment is enjoyable. It's highly uncomfortable. And my question, can I lean into this discomfort? Do I have the capacity at this moment, not in life, not as a general personality or character definition of am I able? In this moment, what is my capacity? Because that ebbs and flows depending on responsibility, depending on menstrual cycles, depending on whether I've eaten and had a nap, whether I have spent time with friends, you just, whatever, you just lay it on there. So the definition of vulnerability was huge for me out of this chapter. The understanding that on the quote, page 54, vulnerability begets vulnerability and courage is courageous. I feel that. I feel it from all of you. There's my circle. And the shield that I had used for so long to subconsciously protect myself from vulnerability required that I stay small and quiet. That is how I lived my life. Not necessarily always in personality, because I can be loud and fun, but in naming what I want, naming what I need, oh, no. I would shrink. So I'm learning how to not shrink.
Being able to say what you want and what you need, and then being okay with not getting it, for me, strikes to the heart of that vulnerability.
because when you voice it, you voice to somebody else. I want this from you. This is what I want in order to feel safe, or in order to feel seen, or in order to feel loved. Like all of these things that we want from friendship, world, from our partners. And then if you don't get it, for me, it feels like, well, I showed you what I wanted and you didn't get it to me. So now I don't feel loved, which isn't necessarily true. But for me, that's why for so long I wouldn't say, because I felt like if I said that and I didn't get it, then the disappointment and the hurt of that would be harder than not speaking it for myself. And that's something. But it's not like you were going to get it anyway. You'd say it, right? All you're doing really is increasing the chances of receiving that by voicing it, by breathing through that stuck place where I'm scared to say this, I'm scared to say this.
Or you bring clarity because you begin to name what you do and don't want.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to ask yourself, will I live with or without that?
Mm-hmm.
And feeling unloved is a very real emotion. And am I willing to feel this perpetually? Is this a deal breaker? Or is this something that's going to become harmful to me?
What emotion is it?
Feeling unloved?
Yeah.
Sadness.
Years ago, I was talking with a therapist and they told me, how about you work on getting all those needs met yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but that's no fun. That's not, I don't want to do that myself. I mean, there is truth to that. I do know that there are relationships in the world where both people give to each other as much as they can. And they're together and it's nice and they stay together. I know it's real. I don't think it's the majority. I find that I get most of my social needs met by this group. I get most of my belonging needs met by this group. I get a lot of my growth needs met by this group. And really, I don't need a lot outside myself besides that. So it's really nice.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel like any guy that I go with has got to be at least as interesting as you guys. Otherwise,
That bar is damn high.
that's a very high bar.
It's interesting. Is all of us put together or just like one of us?
Both. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Athena? Quiet over there.
Yeah. So when you're in a committed relationship, also known as marriage, possibly, and I mean, that's your person, and you obviously have been with them long enough to trust them enough, have enough relationship established to where you would think you could be vulnerable because you've been slowly peeling back the layers, right? But when that partner turns on you and uses it against you, that's where the dagger hits the nail. And that's when you're like, oh, so the one person I trusted most out of every other person walking the earth, if they can do that horribly and that hurtfully, then, all right, just gonna. I know she said we're going to get to armor later, but it's like, yep, gonna armor that up. We're just gonna armor that up.
Yeah. Is that what she says? We're going to be to armor
Yeah.
later?
Well, and that was that
Michelle.
whole section about on page 51. It talked about when you think about vulnerability and you think about betrayal, and betrayal often talks about somebody who was sexually betrayed or things like that. But then it talks about the betrayal of disengagement,
Yes.
of not caring, of letting the connection go, of not being willing to devote time and effort to the relationship. That was a true betrayal.
Yeah.
The rest of it's just surface level.
Yeah.
Right. quite honestly, I can get through somebody sleeping with somebody else because that's surface level to me. It's that meaty disengagement to me is a true betrayal of like, well, you just disconnected.
Yeah. That emotional
Yeah.
disconnection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was 51, that was a big page for me of reading and going, wow. Yeah. Not ever thinking about that as being a betrayal. That disengagement was a betrayal. I never thought of it that way. It may have hurt me. I may not have liked it.
Yeah.
It happened, but not looking at it as a vulnerability and a betrayal before this. I was like, yeah.
I had the same thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the ugliest one. So,
Yeah. And she says, disengagement triggers shame and our greatest fears, fears of being abandoned, unworthy, and unlovable. Does showing up as yourself make that less likely? Does it make it more likely?
Let me read this. So this is one thing that keeps me, like, I'm just a quieter. You guys don't know me as quiet. The rest of the universe knows me as quiet. Proverbs 17, verse 27, the one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. And someone else said, or you could open your mouth and prove them all that you are a fool. Like, it's like the wise have some restraint, some control, is it necessary to be spoken? Is it needed to be spoken? What is going to be the value? What is going to be the good that comes out of whatever's being spoken? And I've just been that way. And I don't mean necessarily because of that. I mean, I've just been that way my whole life. Just very much in here and very much like, does that need to be spoken? And that's why you guys call me concise. Because I'm like, what needs to be spoken and what doesn't?
Well, I really like that about you, personally. That's what brings that calm, that thoughtfulness, because you can see that going on in your head. You're like, can you actually tilt your head just a little bit? I think it's very loving to consider what you're going to say before you say it. And then you're not speaking out of anger or betrayal or fear or pain. Do you think it's less vulnerable to consider what you say before you say it?
Yes, I think I filter a lot of me because of that.
Okay.
It's like, do they really need to know how I feel about that? Do they really need to know how sucky my day was? Do they really need to know? Like,
yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
You
we
can't
do.
see me, but I'm shaking my head
Yes, we do.
the whole time.
So, I mean, that was the answer to your question. It's like, yeah, I think because I am that way over most, it also affects that vulnerability. Plus, it's been used against me. Not that I expect you guys to, but there's still that conditioning of, how's that going to feel when it boomerangs? Because I've seen it boomerang and knock me out. So,
But I don't think that you're that way when you parent. I think that you are open with your emotions, and I think you free flow that mouth a little bit more in those thoughts when you talk to your child, who's not a child. But because I think that you are trying to teach her. Right?
Not to be like me.
You are trying, you are very conscious of trying to teach her not to be that.
Right.
Even though you still consciously do it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I find myself doing the same thing. Like I find myself when I talk to my kids being honest about, it's a crappy day. I'm just not feeling it today. Now, I don't do it a lot because our conversations aren't all that in depth or all that long or all that frequent, but it is I do feel more like not that typical, how are you doing? I'm fine. Things are good. It's like, oh, well, I'm stressed. I'm frustrated. It was supposed to be this today and I didn't get that today. And oh, well, I'm going to get over it. Because I want them to be honest about their feelings and to start being healthier and not being trapped in the suck it up and soldier on moment.
Right.
So.
Are you different with your kids, Miss B?
When you ask me a question like that, I automatically take a long range view. So my oldest is 23. So I'm taking 23 years of history. That's what flashes before my brain when you ask me a question like that. So I'm on a growth journey with that. I'll leave it at that.
Because you weren't when he was younger.
That is that's a multi-layered conversation.
Because of who you were and your situation and everything.
And what I felt I
should be doing.
Correct. Yeah. But I do want to go back to one thing Athena said was being concise is both intentional and reactionary.
Thanks for joining episode 2 of Spine and Soul. We hope our conversation about daring greatly inspires you to lean into vulnerability, practice brave connection, and keep growing alongside your people. We will continue where we left off on the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and share. It helps other people find our circle. Follow us on RenataRecovery.com for episode notes, resources, and the reading schedule. Want to join the conversation? Email us at journeysrenata@gmail.com or leave a comment review with your thoughts and questions. We may read them on the show. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well by searching for Renata Recovery or Spine and Soul. Spine and Soul, 5 women, 1 book, real talk. Goodbye for now.